I like pushing the boundaries of food, combining them in weird ways, like merging Oreos with croissants. Previously, I've made nachos with pieces of bacon instead of tortilla chips, or one time I fried strips of chicken and smothered them in sausage, gravy, and cheese like a country fried chicken poutine. That one turned out so good that I might make a recipe video for it. But recently, I found myself wondering if you could take French fries and onion rings and make the veggies switch places. Beer-battered potato rings and onion fries, and I mean just plain onions in the shape of French fries. These are the questions that keep me up at night. Is such a thing even possible? Yes, it is. And here's the method behind the madness. The potatoes were pretty straightforward. All I had to do was slice the potato and then cut it into rings with cookie cutters. Then boiled them for about 10 minutes to cook them through, and since they're a bit fragile after cooking, I put them into the freezer for a bit to cool off and firm up. Then time to fry. Made a simple beer batter, dipped the rings, and they fried up great. But turning onions into fries was tricky. I figured I'd have to shred or puree them and then stick them in the freezer to set up firm in a French fry shape. But since shredding the onion would destroy the structural integrity of the fibers, I thought it might get too soggy, and I wondered if there wasn't something I could do about that. I know with molecular gastronomy there are additives that can turn liquids into semi-solid gels. There are enzymes you can add to bind meat proteins together, so-called meat glue. I was curious if there was something like that, but for vegetable fibers. Apparently not. The closest thing I found was synthetic fibers made for clothing by turning wood pulp into regenerated cellulose, but it doesn't seem to have culinary application. I know I was overthinking this a bit, but I couldn't help it. I had to satisfy my curiosity and share my findings. I shredded the onion with the smallest holes of a cheese grater and squeezed out most of the water. To get them into a fry shape, I tried a few things. I put them into these long, thin ice cube trays that they have for water bottles. That was about the right shape. I also tried pressing the onion flat onto a baking sheet and put that into the freezer, which I could then cut into strips while frozen. That actually worked much better to get just the right size and shape for the fries. I know if I just put these straight into the oil, they'd fall apart, so I hoped a light coating of potato starch on the outside would be enough to keep it together. I know that starch is part of what makes fries crispy, though most French fry recipes do call for soaking the cut potatoes to remove some of the starch, which seems counterintuitive. I looked more into this question and ended up falling down a deep rabbit hole. I'll look more into this and report back later, but it turns out there's a lot to know about starch and potatoes. But for onion fries, a light coating of potato starch worked perfectly. This looks like a batch of French fries. This is promising. I had to keep the oil temperature below about 350, otherwise the onions would burn, but after 5 minutes of steady frying, these absolutely are onion fries. The interior wasn't quite fluffy like a potato, understandably, but it was tender and pleasant with a crispy crust. Like potato fries, they're best while they're still hot, so there you have it. Onion fries and potato rings. I have plans to make more culinary doppelgangers like this in the future, so stay tuned.